Hi everyone, I'm your host Law of the West, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the constellation Taurus. The Constellation series so far includes an exploration craft, a general purpose vessel, a luxury touring ship, and now they've added the final missing piece into this series, which is the cargo hauling variant. Out of all the Connies, the Taurus most closely resembles the Andromeda. In fact, if you weren't paying too close attention, it could easily be mistaken for an Andromeda that was missing its parasite craft. The Taurus, as well as the RSI lineup in general, tends to have a very Star Trek-like aesthetic quality to it, and the Taurus has managed to retain most of the same features that a lot of the other Connies also have. Like for instance, it has the same performance and crew size as the other ships. For weapons, it has 4 size 5 hardpoints that are controlled by the pilot, and it comes equipped with 4 gimbal size 4 guns. You can currently swap out 2 of these weapons for a pair of fixed size 5s, but it's unknown at this time if this is going to be a permanent change, or if this is just something that the devs are experimenting with. The Taurus is outfitted with 24 size 2 missiles that can be fired 4 at a time, giving it a decent missile boat-like quality. It's also been given a large shield, which with the current setup is 10 times stronger than a medium-sized shield and 40 times more resilient than a small shield. So the Connies are a lot more tanky now than they used to be. But the real difference between the Taurus and most of the other Connies can't be seen from the outside of the ship, and I'm going to take you on a room-by-room tour pointing out what these things are, starting with the flight deck. The Taurus's flight deck has the same configuration as all the other ships in the series, which has 3 seats that are positioned around the windscreen. The one in the center is where the pilot sits and is flanked by 2 auxiliary stations. What's different with the Taurus's flight deck becomes apparent if you sit down in the center seat. You'll notice that it has a whole series of new options that have been added onto the sides of the console and along the armrest. These changes aren't going to be unique to the Taurus, but the Taurus is going to be the first ship in the Constellation family to be given these options. And over time, the Connies will go through their own art sweep and be updated with a similar setup. Just behind the operator's chair is an access port that leads up to the dorsal turret and down to a ventral turret. The dorsal turret has 2 size 2 weapon mounts that can rotate in a 360-degree arc, and when it's not in use it can retract back into the body of the ship. The bottom turret's been outfitted with a utility mount that comes equipped with a tractor beam. This is going to be an extremely useful thing to have access to, especially considering the new cargo mechanics that are being introduced into the game. In fact, having a tractor beam on a cargo hauler seems like it's going to end up being a necessity. This is because in the future the cargo that you purchase is going to be delivered to your hangar via a freight elevator, and from there you're going to have to manually carry the boxes aboard your ship using whatever means you have at your disposal. This could include handcarts, forklifts, tractor beams, or if all else fails you might end up having to stack them by hand one at a time. The Habitation module for the Taurus has the same configuration as all the other constellations. It has 5 individual lockers, 4 beds, a bathroom shower combo, an externally mounted weapons rack, a number of additional storage compartments, and a table that retracts into the floor. This is also where you'll find a lift that's used as the primary entrance and exit for the ship, and just above it's an airlock that's been mounted into the ceiling. The Taurus's cargo bay has a very similar look as you'd find in the other Connies, but its cargo bay is quite literally double the length that you'd find in those others, and has been elongated out to the point where it can comfortably hold 2 RSI rovers on it. The Taurus is listed as being able to hold a total of 168 SCUs of cargo. On either side of the cargo grid is a walkway, and on each of these walkways is an airlock that's been mounted onto the sides of the ship's chassis. If you continue on to the aft side of the Taurus, you'll come across a self-contained room that has access panels to the ship's components all along its walls. And past that, at the very end of the ship is a small cargo grid that's been scan shielded. So what do I think about this ship? 3.14 has introduced a lot of changes, some of which have really helped to widen the gap between the Constellation series and the other medium-sized ships to the point where they're no longer comparable to one another. These updates have allowed the Connie to take their rightful place as being the next logical step up from a medium-sized vessel and being a good cost-effective introduction into the lineup of large multi-crew ships. When compared to the other constellations, the Taurus doesn't come with any auxiliary craft, which means that it's not going to have a rover, at least not by default, or a Merlin, and it doesn't have the ability to dock a Merlin onto the back of the ship. It does, however, have the ability to jettison its cargo, which was stated to be a unique feature of the Taurus in its original design dock. This feature was described as being a quick and easy way to eject unstable or dangerous cargo while it's in mid-transit. And if you look at the cargo controls that are located on the pilot's list of console commands, you'll find that the ability to eject the ship's payload is now an option. The Taurus has 2 main things going for it. The first is its ability to smuggle contraband, and it currently doesn't have a lot of competition in that department. In fact, the only other flyable ships in the game that also have a shielded cargo bay are the Mercury Star Runner and the Phoenix. And the Phoenix is going to have some level of protection from having its cargo bay scanned, but for the sake of balancing and so that the Taurus can retain some level of uniqueness, it's most likely not going to have the same level of protection as the Taurus does. The ability to block scans isn't going to be a binary thing, and being scan protected won't make you immune to the prying eyes of other ships. But various forms of scan shielding are going to offer degrees of protection against it, and the more powerful your defenses are, the stronger the other ship's scan is going to have to be in order to cut through it. The other main thing that the Taurus has going for it is that it doesn't have a lot of competition when it comes to other cargo haulers, at least not when it comes to its size and for the amount of freight that it can carry. Right now there's a huge gap that exists within the lineup of dedicated freighters, and the Taurus stands alone within a void that exists somewhere between the Freelancer Max and the Raylene. And yes, there are other ships that could be used to trade cargo that also have a similar carrying capacity as the Taurus, but none of them are dedicated cargo haulers. And as we're starting to see with some of the new mechanics that are coming online, that just because a ship can carry cargo doesn't mean that it's going to be good at hauling cargo. We're already starting to see ships being developed which are specifically meant to be a direct competitor for the Connies like the Corsair, which is Drake's answer to the Connies Explorer variant. And I'm sure that in the future we're going to see a lot more ships that are going to be also giving the other Constellation variants a reason to not feel so secure in their role. I think that the real success of the Taurus lies in the designer's ability to allow it to fill a niche for players who are looking to upgrade from a medium-sized ship to their first large multi-crew vessel. And the biggest part of that is going to be to keep its price down to affordable levels, especially when compared to the other more capable medium-sized dedicated haulers like the Hull B and the Raylene. RSI vessels have a reputation for being extremely reliable and are going to be among the oldest ships that are still actively being used by people on a regular basis. So, according to the lore, these ships should be a common sight to come across. And there should be plenty of beat-up older models of RSI ships like the Taurus floating around that are being sold cheap. I like the idea of being able to find an old Taurus chassis that's just sitting on top of a pile of scrap in one of the Stanton's various junkyards, and then being able to purchase it for a song, drag it back to my personal hangar, and then spend my free time restoring it back up to its former glory. I do have a few concerns with the Taurus, the first of which is that it has a slow pitch yaw and roll speed. This means that it's going to have trouble covering its blind spots and that it's not going to be the most agile or atmospheric capable of ships. The Taurus does have an impressive allotment of forward-facing guns and missiles, but an enemy ship could easily avoid them if they attack from either the rear or the Taurus's belly, and the top turret doesn't provide much protection having only 2 size 2 guns. The Taurus also doesn't seem to make enough UEC per run to afford having a full crew and then having to pay for escort ships on top of that, so you're going to have to get creative when it comes to defending this ship and making money at the same time. What I like about the Taurus is that it's heavily shielded, almost to the point where it could tank most attacks while it waits for its quantum drive to spool up and jump away from danger. Its weapons are going to be more than enough to take on any AI-controlled targets who don't seem to take advantage of things like blind spots. And I like the fact that it carries its cargo and vehicles internally so that they're protected by the ship's hull and its shields. I also like that it has a smuggler's bay, which has a lot of gameplay potential associated with it. You can already see the beginnings of it start to emerge with the security checkpoints and with the ways that are being developed to get around them. So, in general, I think that the Taurus is a decent ship that offers a lot of multi-crew gameplay when it comes to mid-range cargo hauling, light smuggling, and vehicle transport. But I also think that it's a lot of ship to be used for transporting the amount of cargo that it carries. So that means you're going to have to most likely deal in high-value cargo to make each trip worth your while, and Taurus owners are going to have to go that extra mile to get the most out of each run. Well, that's going to be it for what my first impressions are of the Constellation Taurus. Thanks for watching, and take care.